guys, it's Ty with Ty the Dog Guy on the Daily, and I want to tell you why I don't like husbands. All right, maybe that's a little bit rash, but why husbands are sometimes the bane of my existence. And so I realize as I'm saying this that I happen to be a husband, and so is this a podcast, a vlog about self-loathing? No, because I'm a good type of husband. But let me tell you the type of husband that I struggle with, because I always joke with people that if it, when I'm chatting with other dog trainers and we're telling war stories and stuff like that, I always say, if it wasn't for husbands, I'd be a rich man. But husbands have cost me more dog training over the years than just about anything. And let me explain further. So let me give you an example. The other day, and it's an example that's happened numerous times, so I'm not calling anybody out here, so hopefully no one sees themselves in this. But the other day, I get a call from somebody, and it was a referral. They say, hey, we've had other people that have used you and really liked you. And it's a woman that I'm speaking with, and she says, we've got a real problem. The dog is attacking people. It's got some big-time aggression and stuff like that. And my husband's been working with him, but we just can't seem to make headway. And so, we chatted for a bit, and I said, all right, here's the program I'd recommend. And she was like, this is what I want. This is what we need. All right, now I just got to talk to my husband and see if he's on board with this. And so I said, sure. All right, let me send you some information, and then I'll just follow up, in a couple days and see if you guys have any questions. So sent her the email information. She likes the idea, she wants to move forward, an email. And so I call back a few days later and say, all right, any other questions, or you just, want to get started? And I end up talking to the husband, and he says, well, we've decided that we're not going to move forward. I'm just going to go ahead and solve this on my own. Now, for starters, I'm a guy who doesn't get offended very easily, but to me that's kind of offensive. That I've dedicated my life to something, put in thousands of hours to learn how to fix dog aggression, for example, or whatever the case might be when I'm talking to someone. So when someone who's had 3 dogs in his life or 5 dogs in his life says, I'll just go ahead and fix it on my own, it's like, it'd be like if I'm going to the mechanic. By the way, I'm not mechanically inclined, and my engine needs to be rebuilt. I'll just tow it to my house. I'll figure it out. I'll rebuild that engine. Or, going to the doctor. Not that I'm saying that dog trainers are doctors, but, there's some complex stuff going on. Going to the doctor and, him saying, all right, we need to take out that gallbladder. And I say, well, that's cool. I'll do that on my own. Or anything like that. To kind of say that, well, I can do your job. I'll just figure this out. That I can do your job without any training. And just like one day I'm just going to, on a whim, I'm going to decide to be a dog trainer today. It's a little bit offensive, but I didn't allow myself to get offended. Maybe I did. I don't know. But anyways, so in talking with him, that was what he said. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to get the dog trained on my own. Now, at this point in my career, years ago, when I was a little bit more feisty and fiery, I would shoot back at people who said something like that. And I would say, well, if you're going to fix it, why wouldn't you fix it by now? If you're going to do something, you've been trying, what's going to change? What's going to be different tomorrow? What are you going to know tomorrow that you couldn't have known today? You've been reading books, you've been watching videos, you've been trying stuff, and nothing's working. What's going to change by tomorrow? And the reality is that when it comes down to it, what is the point of doing trial and error? Is there a point? I mean, maybe if budget is absolutely, and I totally get that, so this is not a knock or anything, but if the budget for dog training, if the budget for fixing your car, if the budget for taking out your gallbladder, just kidding, if the budget for doing a big project isn't there, just absolutely is not there, then yeah, I see the value of doing some trial and error, putting in sweat equity, and trying to figure it out. But the reality is that with so many folks, it's just simply, well, I think I can figure this out, so I'm going to go try to do it. But again, you're not going to figure out how to do it. If you haven't figured it out by now, you're not going to figure it out. So this isn't some impassioned plea of, hire us as dog trainers, because the reality is there's people all over the all over the country that see these videos and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to say, but what I am trying to say is when it comes to your dog, do some trial and error to a point. There's a certain point where it is absolutely silly to do trial and error when there are dozens or hundreds of experts who have figured out how to do this, who have figured out you don't need to do this step, you don't need to do this step, you do need to do that step, you do need to do that, you can't do this, you should do this. There are experts who have figured out how to do all that, and you're just simply going to say, no, I'll figure that out on my own. I'm going to put in decades worth of learning in the next couple months to try to figure this out. Like I say, that doesn't work in any profession. That doesn't work in dog training. It doesn't work in floor tiling. It doesn't work in anything. You can't just one day, from one day to the next, figure out something that's been daunting you for a while. So why does this have to do with husbands? I never hear this. I never hear a husband tell me. I never hear a husband say, well, we were going to do it, but my wife decided to do it on her own. I shouldn't say never. Maybe it's happened in my career, but I've trained thousands of dogs now, and the only time I've ever heard those words is either from a husband's mouth or from a wife quoting her husband saying, oh, we're just going to go ahead and do it on our own. We're going to figure it out on our own. We're going to get a book. We're going to get a video. We're going to figure it out on our own. And so that's where I say over the years, and it's really a failure of mine, of not being able to convince somebody that, hey, I'm better than you just doing some trial and error. So in the end of the day, it falls on me. But over the years, I've heard this dozens and dozens of times, and it only comes from husbands. So husbands, I don't know if you're just doing this with dog training, because I got to tell you, in my life, I never want to figure anything out. If it's anything mechanical, get an expert. If it's a dentist, go to the expert. If it's a car thing, go to the expert. In my life, I've learned this, maybe because I own a business where I've heard this too many times. But in my life, I don't want to do trial and error. I don't want to screw up and waste money and waste time and not get the results that I need. But so the husbands that are out there listening to this, or the wives that are married to the husbands that do this, that say, oh, we'll just figure it out on our own. It's time to face reality. You're not going to figure it out. Whether it's dog training or something else, it's not going to happen. Get the expert. Listen to your wife. Your wife knows better than you. Except in my case. I know better than my wife. But in most cases, your wife knows better than you. So stop fighting it. Husbands, work with the expert.